Hey everyone, it's Dr. Mark Schillinger. Happy to see you today. So in our last session, we talked about consequences and why parents don't want to do them. You have to do them. It's our responsibility. It's our biological obligation to teach them how to make it in the outside world. And trust me, you already know this. You're on the front lines. You're seeing the effects of the advancement of digital devices and how it steals the attention of our sons' brains. They're so likely to get addicted to these things. So you have to teach them consequences because the world is filled with them and you didn't invent them. They think you created them just for them to hate them, which of course is not true. So today I want to teach you how to explain consequences to your son. This is really critical. You have to become a black belt at explaining this. And so I want to show you a slide or two just to make my point about how do you get good at explaining consequences while being calm. What a concept. I think you should be able to see my slide now. And it basically says, stop parenting, start mentoring. This is a theme that I use with parents when I coach them all the time. Parenting implies that you're doing so much for them. Mentoring implies that you're doing very little for them, that you're teaching them, like a mentor, how to make it in the outside world. It's really critical that you change your context. It's your job to get them ready. So you're more like a mentor, which means that you're going to communicate with compassion because they're going through their own stuff as a high schooler or a junior high school person. They're also learning how to deal or not deal with these things. You have to be compassionate. And you need to be calm, clear, concise, and communicating with the certainty that what you're saying is true for you because this is what you know they need to learn in order to make it in the adult world. Okay? So that's really, really important. The other thing I want you to get is that to be like a mentor, you have to become indifferent or dispassionate. So parents will say to me when I'm coaching with them, they'll say, well, Mark, I love my kid. It's hard not to be passionate, or it's hard not to be passionate. It's hard to be indifferent. I love them. Well, of course you love them. My kids are 42 and 44. I still love them like they're my kids. Of course, it'll never end. And when you're communicating, especially about consequences, you have to be indifferent or dispassionate, which I define, let's say those are virtues, dispassionate or indifferent. The value or the definition I give to those two words, same definition or value, is caring without acting. Of course you care. Of course you love them. And you're not acting, meaning you're not doing much. So when they say whatever they say or do whatever they do, you're going to be indifferent. You're just not going to act, or react is really what I should say. React meaning you're going to have a reaction, your adrenaline goes up, and then you try to say or do something. That's not going to work, especially if you're going to give a consequence when you're in that reactive phase. Stop doing that. Because when you act childish like that, you become the excuse for them to stay that way. So don't do that. So indifferent means caring without acting, meaning you just can be totally calm. You don't have to say anything. And then when it's time to communicate to your teen about what consequences are, you're going to be dispassionate. You're just going to be very clear, very calm, very concise, and very certain that what you're saying is true for you because you know that's what they need to learn to make it out there. Okay? So I want to now start getting into how to explain consequences. And I want to bring some humor to this first, just a little bit. Take a moment to give that a look. There are parents, no judgment. There are parents, some who can get away with this style, but most can't, which is that my kids will figure it out. Now, that may have worked back in the heyday, like when I was a kid back in the 50s and 60s, like, America was in a great spot for 10 years or so, maybe 15 or 20, even books have been written about this, but it was a different era then. My neighborhood was filled with people who mentored me, cared for me, knew me. If I tried to do anything weird or wrong, they would always, I remember one time on a Halloween thing, I was going to try to be, I think it was 10. I wanted to be a bad guy. I wanted to be a badass, which I never was. And I remember I got some shaving cream and I was going to spray paint some cars, and then I was going to jump out of the bushes and then jump right back, hope nobody saw me, and then walk home like I was a good boy. So I remember I shook the can. I was just about, out of the bushes and moving towards this car, and all of a sudden I hear a voice that goes, Mork, is that you? Did your mother know that you're doing this? And of course I just freaked out and ran for the hills, which of course there's none in New York. But I ran as far as I can, as fast as way I could. So my point being that, there has to be consequences. If you live in a community like I do, where everybody kind of policed everybody, so to speak, that's one thing. Those days are kind of over. So having this laissez-faire attitude about consequences is not going to really work, especially when they have their own new parents and you're losing your authority because the phone has. Okay, so I just want you to be clear that it's really important that you have consequences. I want to take a few moments to now explain to you as if I was talking to your son, because I have spoken to thousands, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands of young men, either at the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend or here in private practice in my office or on Zoom, explaining to them what consequences are. So I'm going to say it, and I'm going to recommend that you listen to this a few times and really get good at this. So it goes something like this. I say to young men, I say, dude, just want to let you know that a consequence is not a punishment. A punishment is punitive. It means that your parents are upset or somebody's mad at you, and on that adrenaline rush that they're having because they're all agitated and reactive, they make up some bad shit like, give me your phone, or no sleepovers this weekend. That's punitive. The word con means with. The word sequence means order. A consequence means with order. With order. So anything that you may think, say, or do will probably come back to you in some way. And I let that sink in. I just stop talking and I go, does that make any sense? Now, they don't like to admit that it makes sense, but they know it does. They just don't want to say it because they have one foot in childhood and one foot in young adulthood. And this is the part where they like to act like children. No, we don't want any consequences. It's not fair. So I let them know that their parents did not invent consequences. The whole universe is a result of consequences. Two things collide, it's going to be an explosion, something happens. You say this to somebody and it's the wrong person to say that to, somebody who has authority and you don't have authority, there might be a consequence. Like you go to the principal's office or worse, let's say you steal something from a store. That's an act you did. The consequence, the order from that is that you get a police record or something. So they understand that. They definitely understand that. Of course, I check one of them to make sure they do. So then I go like this. I say, consequences can be good. They can be bad. They can be positive. They can be negative. And here's the key. They can be fair or unfair. And I often show them this slide, usually after I make the explanation that I'm giving you right now. So I say, consequences could be anything, even if it's not appropriate, even if it's not fair. Life will be filled with consequences. There'll be consequences every day. Even if you, for example, you get up to go to school and you're running late and you don't eat, and now you're getting tired by 10 a.m. That's a consequence of getting up. It's no judgment. It's just what's so. It's just the way the universe works. Something here happens. Something over here is now going to be a result. And again, I'll just pause. Get it? I get it. So I let them know that a consequence gets them back into integrity with the virtues and the values that your parents are trying to teach you. So in a moment, I'm going to show you the document that I showed you in the last video, because you have to be ready. You have to have 5 or 6 virtues picked out that you know your son needs to learn, which I'll show you that document in a moment. So let's say your son was not responsible for taking out the garbage, or like a lot of young men, they take it out, but they ain't taking it back in. They're not bringing it in. They're just not doing it. They think they did it. So you might say, son, I'm asking you to be more responsible. That means doing things you like to do and don't like to do until completion without reminders. So I'm asking you to go outside and get the garbage can back in. Otherwise, there may be a consequence. It's not because I'm angry with you. I love you. And when you're out of the house and you're off from college, you're getting a job, there's going to be tons of consequences, and it's way easier to learn how to deal with them here now while you live under our roof than when you get out there. So a consequence is a way to get back into integrity and to line back up with the virtue of responsibility and the value, which means doing things you like to do, don't like to do until completion without reminders, has a behavior. The behavior is you take it out at night and you bring it back the next morning. And when that behavior is in alignment with that virtue and that value, you're great. You're doing good. And as an adult, you're going to need to be in alignment with the virtues and values, your own ones, by the way, your personal ones, the ones you were born with, the ones of this family, and certainly the ones of the community in the school, college, or job, or whatever you're going to be doing when you're out of the house at 18. When you're out of alignment and you do the consequence right away, now you're an all-star. People will respect you. They'll actually trust you even though you didn't do something. They'll actually trust you because you got right back into integrity. The way that you get back into integrity is through accountability, owning what you should have done or didn't do without excuses. So you say, you know what? I'm right. Let me go get the garbage can. I'll bring it back in. Now you're accountable. I tell the young man, now you're accountable. And then you do the job. Well, now you're done. You did a great job. You acted like a man of integrity. You handled it. And sometimes young men will say to me, well, my mother still says, or my father still says, but they'll always bring it up. And I say, dude, if you got accountable and you return to being responsible, it doesn't matter what the world says. You're good. You should be good with you. In fact, if you get really good at being accountable and doing consequences right away, people will not only respect you, you'll respect yourself. And you develop a certain fearlessness about life because you can handle stuff, whether it goes good or bad. You can handle it. You just clean it up and you move on. So integrity is a big word in my work with young men and with parents. Everybody has to be in integrity. You know, as parents, when at work or wherever situation you're in, if you agree to do something, you have to stay in integrity with your promise or whatever you're committed to. So make this about integrity. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide here, I say, you know what it's like when you're out of integrity with your own virtues. Like you may be a loyal person, and yet you said something to your friend and it created a rift. You're still a loyal person, but your behavior wasn't. And all you need to do is go back to that friend and apologize because you weren't being yourself and clean it up. Apologize and get right back to being loyal and everything's good. Same with consequences. So that's essentially how I define and explain it to young men. The biggest pushback I get is about, well, they're not fair. And I just simply say, welcome to the planet. Welcome. Not to be sarcastic, by the way. I like to call it sarcastic. I'm not sarcastic with young men. They can't handle it. I was brought up on sarcasm. It's a whole different era. If you try that stuff with young people, it's not going to go well for you. They won't respect you. So I say, welcome to the planet, meaning I don't have enough memory space to tell you about all the things that happened to me that were not fair, and I still had to deal with it. So that's going to happen in your life. And by the way, consequences are positive too. Like maybe you hold the door open for an older person and they give you $1 and say, thank you. Well, that was the consequence of doing something positive. You got something back. So you have to be ready to explain consequences in a really good way. Let me take a moment to show you this document, because I think we did this last time. See if I can find it. Here it is. See if I did that right. I think I did. Hope I did. Okay. So I sent this to you, or I asked you to send forward from me last video. If you don't have it, ask me and I'll send it to you. But you don't want to do anything with with consequences unless you know the virtues you're trying to teach them. So I always encourage parents to pick out 5, maybe 6 of the most virtues and then come up with definitions or values that they're trying to teach their son, so that when they're out of alignment, out of integrity, they just keep it really simple. So let's say your son wasn't being cooperative. So you might say, son, I'm asking you to be more cooperative, right? That means, if we can find it here, sharing all necessary resources with others to accomplish a goal. So I'm asking you to come downstairs and help us move some furniture because we have company coming. I'm asking you to be cooperative. Thank you for listening. Love you. And hopefully they'll come down out of their bedroom, and help you. So you have to be very clear what you expect from them, concise, calm, clear, and with the certainty that what you're saying is what they need to hear. And then if they don't do it, you can let them know there may be a consequence. So on the next video that we'll talk about how to give them, how to implement them. That's a whole nother story. But I want to give you a quick story first about a family I coached who actually started doing this model. And again, we'll go further into it next video, probably the video after. So there was this couple that I mentored about 5-6 years ago. And actually you can see their story, and they'll tell you the story that I'm about to tell you. If you click on the link that should be posted with this video today, it'll take you to the family mentoring page of mine, and you'll see their story, their video right at the top of the page. But basically, Nikki and Andrew were telling me that they were getting so good at the consequences, which meant they were really calm, they were really clear, really concise, really certain. Have I said that yet to you before? Clear, concise, calm, compassionate, and certain. They said at some point their son, great guy, very defiant, great guy, he just got to the point where he got so fed up with how calm and clear they were, and they were never negotiating the consequences, that he just finally started doing them. He just started doing them. Of course, it helped that he also attended the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, so he went through a rite of passage where he learned about consequences, and his parents, they never negotiated. They were very clear, and he just started doing them. It changed the whole family dynamic. And then the light went off in this young man because he got like, life isn't going to be like this. I might as well get used to it now, so it's going to be way easier out there. So if you don't have this document, let me know at info@challengingteenagesons.com, and I'll send it to you because you got to have this. Also, if you're not getting my weekly blogs on how to raise your teenage son, again, contact me. I see all the emails, info@challengingteenagesons.com, and I will get you on that email list, and you can start receiving the blogs every week. Okay, great to see you, and I hope to hear from you. Bye.